Alright, back in the shop again. Know the garage is a disaster, but this is the project I've been working on for a little while. Just haven't made any videos on it. I'm going to start making videos on it right now. I started this quite a while ago, probably 2 years ago, and haven't gotten very far along with it, but I'm going to start making some videos on it and let you guys see what's going on. So the base of this car is a 2000 Honda Civic Coupe, two-door. This car I got for free from my buddy. He chopped the front end off, put an Integra front end on it, and then I built the hood scoop. I'm not a fabricator. My welds are not great, good enough to get by. So the plan with this car, when I got it, it had no engine, and he was moving, so he either gave the car to me or went to the scrapyard, and I took the car. So that's how this car came to be and how it became mine. So this car I could have put a Honda engine in, could have called it a day, got it back on the road and going, and I didn't. So I changed everything. So this is kind of my Frankenstein, something that I just had in mind I want to do. So as you can see, looking in the back window, there is a 10-point roll cage in the car, just to start off. So there is a 10-point cage in the car. Door panel was missing when I got it. It's got a Motion Raceworks steering column because I'll show you under the hood here in a little bit. I didn't want the factory steering column and I had to change a ton of stuff. But Motion Raceworks steering column, 10-point cage. It is welded in, it is painted, and it is finished. There is nothing behind this dash except for the wiring for the cluster, wiring for the radio, my switch panel. There's no airbag left in anything. So there's no airbags. There's no shifter right now. I need to get a shifter still. And then there's a tunnel built there because this is going to be a rear-wheel drive car. It's not going to be front-wheel drive anymore. So that's the interior. Nothing really has changed other than Motion Raceworks steering column, steering wheel, and then a couple switches up there just to run everything I'm going to run. Everything I've basically done in the inside is just build the tunnel, put the roll cage in, modify the dash a little bit. And I'll get more into depth into that as I get farther into this car. So I'll come over here. Like I said, I'm not a fabricator. I'm not great at welding. I was never taught how to weld. I just picked up a welder, started welding. So this is all MIG welded. I just recently over there picked up a TIG welder, and I have not figured that one out 100% yet, but I will start be doing that. But under the hood, it's got a rebuilt 5.3 Chevy. So the bottom end is a 2002 Chevy 5.3 out of a Tahoe. It's got stock heads, and I took the block, tore it down, took it to the machine shop, had it power honed because the cylinders looked fine. Put Gen 4 rods in it because they're a little bit stronger than Gen 3 rods. The head, I had to the machine shop. They went through, they decked the surface, they cleaned, they polished it, and then I had them install my new rockers because it's got a Brian Tooley Racing up there. Brian Tooley Racing Stage 2 turbo cam in it, just because I plan to turbo this car. Right now I'm just going to get it running. It's going to be a turbo car. And I have dual titanium valve springs in it. So that's the engine in a whole. It's got no knock sensors. And this is an intake. I know it's the worst flowing intake for these motors, but it's the only one I can get to actually fit in this compartment the way that I want, because it's already got a 3-inch rise on the hood. I didn't want any more than 3 inches because I couldn't see over it. I'm kind of short. So that's an intake off of a 2012, I believe, 2012 Chevy Malibu or Impala, whichever one of those it is, SS, came with the 5.3. That's what that intake is off of. And then the fuel rail is, stock fuel rail, stock injector, stock everything right now. I need to get bigger injectors, get the fuel system completely sorted out. But for now, it's not going to be turbo. It's going to be naturally aspirated. So until I get the turbos and everything set up, it's just going to be naturally aspirated. Manifolds are flipped backwards. This is I believe, Motion Raceworks engine plate. So I do have a Motion Raceworks engine plate in there. It's got a really cruddy cutout for my exhaust. I just took my plasma, chopped them out, and I will clean that up at a later date. Right now, I'm just kind of mocking everything up. Do have my harness all put together. Got the ECU, stock ECU from this motor setting underneath the dash. It's setting in there. It's ready to go. I need to get my intake tube built with my mass airflow on there. And then my exhaust on both sides right now, I'm probably just going to take it and dump it right out this fender. I know it's terrible to have your exhaust dump out the front side of your wheel. instead of the rear. If it's a front side, if it spews oil, I get it. You'll lose traction, you'll crash. I'll die. I get it. But for now, that's how I'm going to set it up. Just because of simplicity, there's not a lot of room inside the engine bay. I know that this 5.3 fits in there fairly well. I've got room on both sides. Not much room forward and back, though. The forward and back is kind of the hard part. So the back, I've got, I don't know, an inch of clearance back there, and that's only because I wanted to have that inch. I sacrificed some of the front room for that inch. The radiator I don't have yet. I got to figure out which radiator will work in here, because this intercooler is coming out. That was one that came with the car. That's coming out. I think that came out of a PT Cruiser. Doesn't work for this application. So I'm going to have to figure out what radiator will fit here. My setup, though, for alternator, power steering, all that stuff, I think my water pump, I'm going to go with electric. I'm going to have an electric remote mount water pump setup, probably. My power steering is for sure going to be remote mount, because I don't have anywhere I can mount my power steering pump based on where my exhaust comes out. So that's off of a Volvo. I don't remember year, make, and model. That's off of Volvo. Tons of people are doing that. It's just an electric power steering pump. So I'm going to run that for my power steering. The steering in this car was a challenge. So anybody who's ever dealt with one of these Hondas knows that you have a cross member that sets right here and it runs across the car, right there where the engine sets. And I had to chop that out to make room for the transmission that's behind this motor. Right now it's a Turbo 400, and that's probably what I'm going to end up running, just because there's not a lot of room in there. I'd love to have a 4L80 with overdrive, but that's probably not going to end up happening. So Turbo 400 in there, chop the cross member out, and that cross member actually holds the rack and pinion for the steering. And the steering actually used to set and used to steer from the back side of the wheel. And I couldn't steer from the back side of the wheel because I had to move everything out of the way for the engine and trans to sit in its place. So what I had to do was I had to build another cross member, and it sets up in the front side right here, and it runs across. And that is an old hitch off of some old car that I have. That came off the old car, it's just a hitch. I cut it up, made it work, and that now holds my rack and pinion sitting down there. I don't have that finished up yet either. My steering isn't finished, my fuel system's not finished, but that rack and pinion is out of a 2002 Chevy Camaro. And then my spindles from driver's side and passenger side, I had to swap them back and forth. So this is the passenger side spindle, the other side's got the driver's side. It was a direct swap, made sure the brakes were correct and the bleeder was at the top, not on the bottom. That way I could bleed the brakes. And that's that. So right now, I'm in the process. I have the fuel system ordered up. I've got to figure out some way of either buying another lower profile oil pan or cutting mine down. I don't have much room underneath the car as far as the oil pan. So I've got, this really doesn't show it very well, about 1.5 inches of clearance underneath the oil pan on the car, and I'd like to have a little bit more. The rear end, I still got to get that. That's going to be probably a Ford 8.8 out of like a Ranger or something, because I can chop it down and make it the same width as the car. And then I got to figure out my drive shaft length, but the fuel system's going in the trunk. I'm having a fuel cell in the trunk. It's going to feed the motor, and right here is kind of just where I'm at. This is my standstill again. I keep coming to standstills in this car. The finances is stopping me. I'm slowly working ahead, but I got to get my fuel system figured out, and I haven't fired this motor yet. It's been sitting here in this car for about 1.5 years, and I've never fired it. So I'm hoping that within the next week or two, I'll have this thing fired up and at least running. It won't be driving yet, but I want to hear it at least run. Make sure it's going to run, and I'm not going to have some major problem with it. But that's where I'm at with this car. I'm going to start making some videos on it, so I want to give you guys an update. Short, simple, sweet 2000 Civic with a 5.3. And I will show you guys more as more progresses. Thanks for watching.